Jax had never trusted anything that smelled like burning asparagus and lemon polish, but the ship dealer insisted it was just a cleaning solution. Keeps the worms out of hull, the vendor rasped, one eye blinking asynchronously with his mouth. Jax leaned closer, eyeing the ship, a dented, humming relic shaped like a toaster crossed with jellyfish. It pulsed weakly, as if gasping for retirement. Still, it was cheap. That was enough. Jax's whole life had been cheap. Cheap jobs, cheap thrills, cheap fuel. He wasn't exactly proud of it, but space was a wide, unkind place, and corner-cutting kept him alive. This ship, hilariously named the Indigo Rat, was a step up from the last heap that imploded trying to orbit Venus. Comes with a learning AI, the vendor added, poking the hull fondly. Sorta learns. Sometimes forgets. Bit like a brain-damaged puppy, but friendly enough. Jax blinked. How many past owners? Technically, it's yours now. He should have walked away, but the moment he stepped inside and the doors hissed closed behind him, he felt something. Not exactly comfort, more like familiarity, as if he'd been here before, in another life. Pilot recognized. The ship's AI crackled. Or, at least, someone close enough. That should have been his second red flag. 2 days later, he was 30 parsecs from Earth, alone with his thoughts and a maintenance panel that wouldn't stop vibrating. The AI, who insisted on being called Moxie, played old Earth radio static and occasionally recited trivia about extinct fish. Your bio reading suggests mild dehydration and severe romantic stagnation, Moxie said cheerfully. Jax rolled his eyes. I didn't install therapy mode. You didn't install anything. I am hardwired into the guilt centers of your brain. Fantastic. Outside the portal, the stars stretched like sugar spilled across black velvet. Jax adjusted course with a flick and sighed. This was supposed to be his break. No more contracts. No more close calls. Just space, solitude, and silence. But silence didn't last long in ships like these. Unusual transmission detected, Moxie said suddenly. Her tone had shifted, sharper. Encrypted, non-local. Jax leaned forward. Show me. The holodisplay blinked to life, showing a flickering signal. Not language, not code. Pulses, almost rhythmic. Almost like, Moxie, can you translate? Unknown origin. Biological markers embedded in waveform. Trace elements of synaptic resonance. Jax frowned. That's not a transmission. That's a neural imprint. He hadn't heard that term in years, not since the last time he saw her. A memory clawed its way up. Silver eyes, laughter like glass wind chimes, a touch that defied gravity. Zyra, but she was gone. Had to be. The war, the explosion, the silence that followed. Where's it coming from? He asked, voice low. Sector Delta 9, Moxie replied. But I must warn you, that region is under navigational quarantine. Road debris field and past reports of... I said set course. Done. This will void your ship's already void warranty. Jax grinned without joy. Wouldn't be the first thing in my life that came with no guarantees. The trip was rough. Moxie complained. The engines hiccuped. At one point, the ship rotated 300 degrees for no clear reason and then apologized. But when they arrived, all jokes evaporated. Floating in the middle of a dead zone was a station, no lights, no rotation, and barely held together. Its insignia was scoured off, but the shape was unmistakable. A modular research hub, long since abandoned. Jax recognized the model. It was Zyra's last known assignment. He docked carefully, magnetizing the hull to the only stable port. The airlock wheezed open like an old lung, and he stepped inside, flashlight rays, breath shallow. The interior was eerie, silent, frost lining the walls, broken panels dangling like dead vines. No bodies, no signs of violence, just emptiness. Moxie, he whispered, keep the line open. Any sign of instability, yank me back. Affirmative. Probability of demise, moderate to high. I am recording your last words in advance. He ignored her and moved down the corridor. Then he heard it. A sound. No, a voice. Soft. Familiar. Jax. He froze. The light in his hand trembled slightly. "Who's there?" Silence. Then the voice again, closer. "You found me." He spun, breath-catching. A figure emerged from the shadows. Slim, tall, cloaked in silver robes. He couldn't see her face, but the way she moved, it hit him like a thunderclap. "Zyra." The figure stepped forward. The light hit her features, and Jax felt everything he'd buried crack open at once. It was her. Older, paler, a faint scar along her cheek. But her eyes, still the same impossible silver, still piercing through every defense he thought he'd rebuilt. He lowered the flashlight, hand shaking. How is this real?" She didn't smile, but her voice held warmth. "I had to disappear, Jax. I couldn't risk them finding you. You were dead. I saw your station explode." "That wasn't me." She stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a feral animal. "They needed everyone to think I died. I needed you to believe it." His chest tightened. He wanted to punch something. Hug her. Collapse. "You didn't even try to contact me?" "I tried," she whispered. "But the ship you were in, the signal filters, they—" "You left me alone," he said bitterly. "You let me drown. I kept you safe." They stared at each other for a long time. The humming of the dead station filled the void between words. Then she turned slightly, nodding toward the far end of the corridor. "There's something you need to see." Jax hesitated. "I'm not here to hurt you," she added, softer now. "But you bought the wrong ship." He almost laughed. "Story of my life." She led him through a dark hallway into a sealed chamber. Inside was a pod, organic in shape, humming faintly. Jax approached it, confused. "What is this?" "The reason they're looking for me," she said. "And now they'll be looking for you." The pod pulsed. Jax stared at it, realization dawning. The ship, Moxie said it had something strange inside it, a neural pattern. Zyra nodded. They implanted part in the ship, hoping to move it without notice. You just became the unwitting courier, the most valuable artifact in 3 sectors. He stepped back, heart pounding. "What does it do?" Zyra looked at him, and for the first time, fear showed in her eyes. "It chooses." The lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the station, metal groaned. Jax's hand instinctively reached for the wrench at his belt. "We need to get out of here." "I'm coming with you." He stared. "You're just assuming I'll—" "I'm not assuming. I'm hoping." For a beat, they didn't move. Then the lights died entirely, and the distant sound of a docking breach echoed through the station. Moxie's voice crackled over comm. "I suggest haste. Visitors have arrived, and they don't seem friendly." Jax grabbed Zyra's hand. She didn't flinch. They ran, and as the ship's bay doors closed behind them and the station receded into black, he realized something terrifying. He didn't know if he was running from something or toward it. The ship's interior groaned in protest as Zyra stepped aboard, her presence triggering a cascade of warning lights and muttered diagnostics from Moxie. The AI's tone, one to reverent and playful, had dipped into cautious suspicion. Unknown biometric signature detected. Species classification prohibited. Status dangerously elegant. Jax shut the airlock behind them. "Stand down, Moxie. She's with me. I wasn't aware we were adopting interstellar fugitives. Do I need to scan for pheromonal manipulation?" "She's my wife," Jax snapped. A long pause. "Ah!" Moxie replied finally, in a tone laced with digital smugness. "That explains the poor judgment." Zyra moved with practiced ease, her hand brushing along the faded wall panels as she surveyed the ship. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes missed nothing. Jax watched her warily, unsure what to say now that she was truly here, physical and real and suddenly very, very close. She stopped at the main console. "This thing shouldn't still be running," she murmured. "Half the systems are 20 years out of date. The shielding is improvised. The AI's humor circuits are dangerously miscalibrated." "Hey," Moxie muttered. Zyra turned to him. "Where did you get this ship?" "Dealer on Titan." "Cheap, noisy, vaguely illegal." "The usual." She nodded once, lips pressed into a line. "Don't know what's hidden in this thing." I'm starting to get the impression. Jax moved toward her, hands in his jacket pockets to disguise their tremble. I thought you were dead. That day on the Outer Rim, your station exploded. I waited for weeks. I tried to send a signal to your colony, to your people. Everything bounced back. Zyra's gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. I wanted to respond, but doing so would have led them straight to you. Who are they? She hesitated. He leaned in. Zyra. They call themselves the Ardent Circle, a technocratic sect. They believe in preserving pure galactic bloodlines. No hybrids, no interspecies alliances. I was on their radar long before I met you. But after us, I became a symbol of what they want to erase. Jax took a long, measured breath. So they destroyed the station to kill you. No, they destroyed the station to hide me. Or rather, to make it seem like I was dead, so I could keep moving, stay invisible. And now, she met his eyes. Now you've lit a beacon. The statement hung in the air between them. Jax turned, ran a hand through his hair, and stared at the blinking navigation display. Outside, space churned with quiet malice. The coordinates of the station still glowed faintly on the screen, a ghost of the past trailing behind them. I didn't know, he said quietly. I know, she replied, her voice gentler. But it doesn't change the fact that you're in danger now. He shook his head. Why follow me? Why show up now? Zyra stepped closer, and when she spoke, her voice wavered, not from fear, but from something rawer. Because the moment I saw that ship power up, I knew it was you. I felt it. You always had this careless glow around you, like the universe itself bent rules to keep you moving. I had to be sure. She paused, and I wanted to see you. Just once. Jax looked at her, fully now, letting the years crash into silence. Time had carved delicate changes into her face, but the force of her presence was undiminished. She was a storm given form. Moxie cleared her digital throat. If you two are done sharing emotionally risky sentiments, we may want to discuss the massive signal spike that occurred the moment she stepped aboard. Jax stiffened. Meaning we've been pinged multiple times. They know you left the station. They're narrowing in. Zyra's face darkened. Then we don't have long. Jax moved toward the pilot seat. We need a plan. Someplace safe. Someplace they can't track. There isn't a place like that anymore, she said. Not for me. Not for you now, either. Then we make one. Zyra studied him, uncertain. Jax turned to her. You didn't think I was going to drop you off at the nearest spaceport, did you? She said nothing, but something shifted in her stance, subtle but unmistakable. Trust, or at least the start of it. Later, over a meal cobbled from vacuum-sealed packs and reheated coffee sludge, they sat across from each other at the galley table. Conversation came slowly, like trying to dance on an old injury. She told him fragments, coded names, lost friends, the network she used to stay ahead. He listened, sometimes offering a bitter laugh, sometimes nodding silently. So what's in the ship? He asked eventually. What's so valuable they'd kill to have it? Zyra tapped her fingers against the metal table. It's not in the ship. It is a ship. Or at least the ship is a shell. For what? She looked at him gravely. A consciousness. A mind older than either of our civilizations. They found it buried beneath the sands of Jara 4, dormant for thousands of years. It's alien, completely foreign. They tried to study it. Couldn't control it. So they split it. Fragments embedded in host vessels, meant to keep it passive. And this ship's one of those vessels. She nodded. It was forgotten, misfiled, sold off as junk, but it's waking up now. Because you're different. Jax blinked. What does that mean? I don't know, she admitted, but it's choosing you, and that scares them. Moxie chimed in with a dry laugh. Suddenly, I feel like a shared apartment with a demigod. Jax leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I just wanted a quiet ship, maybe haul some parts. Stay out of politics and prophecies. Zyra offered a faint smile. You always said that, even while crashing headfirst into both. They sat in silence for a while after that. Then the ship jolted, hard, The lights flickered, and a high-pitched tone whined through the speakers. "External impact," Moxie said grimly. "We've been tagged." Jax was already moving. "Weapon systems?" "Minimal, mostly decorative. I can blink threatening lights and make aggressive honking noises." On the main display, a dark shape emerged from hyperspace. Sleek, black, humming with menace. No insignia. No broadcast signal. "They found us," Zyra said quietly. Jax's fingers flew over controls. "We need cover." "There's a gravity well not far from here," she offered. "If we dive fast enough, we might shake them. But it's unstable. Better unstable than dead." The ship shuddered again. Warning klaxons screamed. Moxie muttered a string of half-censored insults. Zyra strapped him beside him. "Ready?" "No." The ship dropped like a stone into the gravity well. The stars twisted. Alarms howled. But they didn't stop. Jax's hands were steady. Zyra's eyes stayed fixed on display. And somewhere deep in the ship's core, a pulse beat louder than before. Ancient, patient, awakening. And still choosing. The Indigo rat screamed as it plunged into gravity well, its aging frame groaning under forces it was never meant to endure. Jax gritted his teeth, fingers locked on the controls. The stars stretched into threads of light, then folded in on themselves. Moxie warbled incoherently, equal parts panic and existential dread. Zyra sat motionless beside him, eyes locked on the rapidly shifting readings. Her posture was perfectly calm, though the subtle tension in her jaw betrayed her awareness of how close they were to disintegration. "Gravitational compression at threshold," Moxie hissed. "This maneuver is both idiotic and statistically fatal. Keep your projections to yourself." Jax barked. "Just hold the hull integrity." "I'm trying, but I have the structural integrity of soda, can under a collapsing star." Zyra reached over, flicking a switch Jax didn't recognize. The ship lurched, then stabilized, slightly. "What was that?" he asked, panting. "Manual inertial dampening override. Buried in the old designs. You're lucky the system hadn't rusted solid." He blinked at her. "You still remember this class of ship?" "I remember everything," she said softly. The gravity well spat them out like a swallowed seed. The ship tumbled for a moment, then righted itself as the stars realigned. Space around them was darker here, the kind of darkness that swallowed signals and lost entire fleets. Jax caught his breath as the ship drifted through the calm that followed their mad plunge. "Did we lose them?" he asked. Zyra scanned the sensors. "For now." Moxie chimed in with something resembling awe. "I must update your file, Captain. That was the most ill-advised yet effective escape I've ever witnessed. Shall I log it under reckless heroics or cosmic stupidity?" "Log it under live," Jax muttered, slumping back in the pilot's chair. But the reprieve was temporary. Something had changed during the dive. Something subtle but profound. The ship no longer felt like a broken machine held together by stubbornness. It hummed now, deeper and slower, as if a sleeping beast had shifted beneath its skin. Jax noticed it first in the lighting. The emergency reds had faded, replaced with a faint amber glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Panels that had once flickered with age now pulsed in rhythm. The cockpit's air tasted different, charged, ozone-slicked. Zyra stood slowly, her eyes narrowed. "It's waking up." "You mean the consciousness?" She nodded. Being near the gravity well must have triggered a response. Deep memory, maybe. Recognition. "What does it want?" She looked at him, uncertain. "I think it's trying to decide." Jax frowned. "Decide what?" "If it accepts you." Moxie sniffed. "I've already accepted him, and I regret it most days." Ignoring her, Jax stood and moved toward the core chamber, the section they hadn't dared to explore in full. Zyra followed. The door opened without a command. Inside, the pod they had seen on the station pulsed brighter now, strands of light unfurling across the chamber like veins. Jax stepped closer, drawn by a magnetic pull he couldn't explain. His hand hovered over the pod. "It recognizes your neuroprint," Zyra murmured. "There's a part of you, I don't know how to say it. You're compatible." "That doesn't make sense." I'm nobody. I've been a junk hauler, a courier, a glorified taxi driver. She shook her head. Not to it, not to them. Them? Zyra hesitated. It's not one mind. It's many. Fractured across vessels like this one. Distributed. Waiting. Jack stepped back, unsettled. And now that I'm carrying it, what? They come for me instead of you. No, Zyra said. They come for both of us. You because you're a threat. Me because I'm a reminder. Jax looked at the pod. And what does it want to do? She didn't answer. Before he could ask again, Moxie's voice cut in, subdued. Long-range sensors detect incoming traffic. Multiple ships. Small, fast. Cloaked until now. Zyra's expression darkened. Scouts. Arden Circle. How did they find us so fast? They've been watching this consciousness for decades. They have ways to triangulate activity spikes. When it stirs, they know. Jax's mind word. How long before they reach us? Minutes. We can't outrun them in this quadrant, Moxie added. No slipstream gates, and the engines are still recovering from the gravitational bypass. Zyra stepped into the chamber and placed her palm on the pod. Immediately, the walls lit up, symbols swirling in alien geometry, forming patterns that pulse with life. The lights bathed her in gold. Jax shielded his eyes. What are you doing? Communing, she said, eyes closed. It listens to you, but it knows me. I lived near its fragments. Study them. I might be able to guide it. To do what? She opened her eyes. To protect us. The light surged. The ship shook, not violently, but with purpose. Jack staggered backward as the core chamber pulsed, the pod flaring with brilliance. Moxie, he called. I have no idea what's happening. The AI responded. I just got locked out of my own interface. That's rude and existentially terrifying. Zyra, Jack shouted. What's it doing? She was still, hand pressed against the light, eyes unfocused. Then the ship moved, not with thrusters, not with propulsion. It simply blinked, disappeared from where it had been. In the next instant, they were somewhere else entirely. The viewport showed no stars, no ships, just an ocean of shifting black, fractured with faint filaments of light, like the brain of the universe laid bare. Moxie sputtered. This is not a registered sector. In fact, I don't think this is space. Zyra staggered, and Jax caught her. You okay? She nodded slowly. It listened. It brought us here. Somewhere outside their reach. Where is here? She turned to him, her voice distant. A space between pulses. Between time, where the circle can't follow. Jax glanced back at the glowing pod, now quiet again. So it saved us? For now. He exhaled, heart pounding. Then we use this. We plan. We hit back. Zyra looked up at him. Her face was drawn, tired, but her eyes burned with something fierce. They won't stop, Jax. Not unless we destroy the whole chain. Not unless we make them afraid of what this ship and you represent. He squared his shoulders. Then we give them something to fear. The pod pulsed again, gentle, like approval. And outside, in the dark between realities, something waited. The void outside the Indigo rat held its silence like a breath not yet exhaled. No stars, no debris, just the endless flicker of luminous filaments crisscrossing in every direction, pulsing with patterns too intricate for Jax to follow. It wasn't space. It wasn't hyperspace either. It felt like they had slid behind the curtain of the universe, into the gears of its hidden machinery. Jax stood in the observation corridor, arms crossed, gaze fixed outward. He couldn't feel the usual drift of the ship, the subtle pressure shifts or mechanical hums that define travel. Instead, everything was perfectly still, except for the whisper of the ship's heart, that deep, rhythmic pulse now fully synchronized with his own. He didn't know when the connection had happened. Maybe he had been there all along, waiting for someone who didn't belong to any faction, any bloodline, any ideology. Just a wanderer with a chip past and a knack for making things work longer than they were meant to. Zyra approached, her steps quiet against the grating floor. He could feel her watching him before she spoke. "It's stabilizing," she said. "Whatever this place is, it doesn't seem to degrade biological function. We're safe. For now." He nodded but didn't take his eyes off the filaments. "Does it have a name?" Zyra joined him at the window. "It was never meant to be seen. Some of the old archives I accessed in the core called it the Threadscape, the weave behind space. The original framework before stars formed. Places like this weren't meant for travel. They were memory." "Whose?" She hesitated. "The consciousness. Before it was fractured, this might be where it was born or buried." Jax turned to her, expression unreadable. "So now we're in the mind of something that outlived empires." Zyra's lips parted as if to speak, then closed again. She leaned against the window beside him, folding her arms. "Doesn't scare you?" he asked. She exhaled. "It terrifies me, but I'm more afraid of what's out there waiting to erase it." Jax nodded, his jaw set. "Then we stopped running." They reconvened in the core chamber. The pod at its center was quiet, dimmed, yet somehow more aware than before. Moxie had regained partial system access and hovered nervously at the edge of the chamber via hollow projector. "I feel like a pet in a zoo," she said. "The exhibit's changed, and I'm the only one who doesn't speak the language." Zyra paced slowly, eyes flicking across the still active glyphs. "This place, this space, it's amplifying the link between Jax and the consciousness. If we can map it, we might be able to replicate that resonance. Use it against the circle." Moxie blinked. "Use it how?" "I don't see any lasers in this library of nightmares." Zyra stopped, turned to Jax. "They hunt vessels carrying fragments, but they've never seen one awaken. They've never fought one. You want to go back. I want to show them what happens when they try to burn history." He looked at the pod. "And you're sure it'll fight with us?" "I'm sure it's watching. It hasn't stopped since we came aboard." Jax stepped forward. "Then let's ask." The pulse intensified slightly, as if an answer. He placed both hands on the pod. It felt warm now, almost alive. The moment his skin made contact, light bled from the seams in curling patterns, enveloping him. Visions blinked behind his eyes, a towering network of stars like neurons, flickering with intent. A voice without sound, older than language, ships collapsing into dust around something they couldn't comprehend. He gasped and staggered back. Zyra caught him. "What did it show you?" she asked. "Not a weapon," he whispered. "A warning. It doesn't want to fight. It wants to end the fight. Permanently." Zyra frowned. "Then we offer them a choice." Jax turned to Moxie. "Can we broadcast from here?" "Not in traditional frequency bands," she replied. "But there's something else. This space bleeds into the Echo Network, the old subquantum web. Prehistoric. I can push a signal through, but we'd be broadcasting into everything. Unfiltered. Uncloaked." Jax met Zyra's eyes. "Good." They worked quickly. Moxie created a transmission frame. Zyra embedded the glyph patterns, and Jax recorded the message. His voice rang steady as it played through the ship's hollow spine. "This is Jax Kieran, captain of the Indigo Rat. We are no longer hiding. The vessel you seek has chosen to remember, and it remembers all of you. If you continue to hunt, you will face the full knowledge you tried to bury. Turn back, walk away, or face extinction not by force but by truth." He paused and added, "We don't want war, but we're done running." The transmission burst into the Threadscape like a flare into darkness. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the pressure in the chamber shifted. Moxie's voice lowered. "We've been answered." Dozens of ships, maybe hundreds, flashed across the edges of their sensors, not as shapes but as patterns, signatures. Ardent Circle, Fracture Syndicate, Rogue Guilds, names that once competed for control, now converging with singular purpose. Zyra stepped beside Jax. "They're not just responding, they're rallying." Jax turned to the core. "Then we show them." The pod pulsed once, sharply, and the ship moved. Not a jump, not a blink. A transition. The Threadscape peeled away, and they emerged in normal space again, just beyond the galactic inner ring, at the edge of a dead star system. But they weren't alone. Dozens of ships appeared beside them, not all enemy. Some bore the marks of resistance fleets long thought extinct. Others were unregistered vessels, survivors, smugglers, ghosts. Zyra's eyes widened. The signal didn't just warn them, it awoke them. From every direction, responses flowed in, encoded in fragments of the same glyphs Jax had seen in the pod. The consciousness wasn't fractured anymore. It was linking itself together again through the people who had touched it, remembered it, feared it. Moxie spoke with new clarity. We're no longer a ship. We're a node, a beacon. Jax exhaled. Then let's give them light. In the distance, the first ardent vessels broke from stealth. Dark, blade-shaped, brimming with silence. But this time, they weren't hunting prey. They were stepping into something they couldn't control. Jax took his seat at the helm. Zyra stood beside him. The pod's light spread across the console, forming new controls, alien but intuitively familiar. The ship thrummed with purpose. And as the enemy drew near, the Indigo rat surged forward, not alone, but at the head of something vast, something ancient, and something very much alive. It had remembered, and now so would they.